Good morning or good afternoon, everybody, and a belated happy St. Patrick's Day. Welcome to our Thrive Innovation Series here in Silicon Valley. I'm John Hartnett, CEO and founder of SVG Ventures and Thrive, and I'm delighted to be joined here today by John Jordan, CEO of Ornua, Kerry Gold, Nora Khaldi, CSO and founder of Nuritas, and Carrie Shea, who leads IRI Growth Team. We have a fascinating discussion on consumer trends, future of food, with a special taste of Irish, especially as it's St. Patrick's Week. Welcome, folks. You can join our conversation today on our Twitter handle, and also you can see our activities with regard to the hashtag Thrive Innovation Series. On our next slide, SVG Thrive is an innovation and investment platform, and our vision is to advance the future of food and agriculture through innovation. We've been ranked as the most active ag tech investor in the world by Crunchbase and the leading agri-food accelerator supporting global entrepreneurs by AgFunder. We have over 5,000 global founders in our private network from over 100 countries. On our next slide, we launched our Thrive Global Initiative last year, focused on addressing the key goals identified by the UN SDGs. We did this in partnership with the USDA, the US State Department, and key partners from around the world. We held special challenges in Australia, Canada, and Africa. And on our next slide, you can see the overwhelming response we had from over 700 startups from around the globe to participate in the Thrive 2021 program. Our next slide, we're now launching our Thrive Europe Challenge with our global partners, and we will be working with the EU Commission. I'm also delighted to announce our partnership with UCD, one of Ireland's top universities, and their Ag Tech Centre at the UCD Lions Smart Farm. So stay tuned for more information. And if you're interested to participate as a partner or apply as a startup, you can learn more on our website. On our next slide, I'd like to thank our corporate partners. These are some of the biggest names in the food industry, and we're delighted to be working with them to accelerate their innovation and growth strategies. Our next slide. We're delighted to partner with Bayer Crop Science to launch the Thrive Bayer Sustainability Challenge, and we will share more details about this at our official launch next month on April 14th. So please register for this and you'll learn more about the Sustainability Challenge. On the next slide, we focused our webinar series on the future of the food supply chain, as well as addressing the challenges of feeding a growing population in a sustainable way while dealing with climate change and the impact of the global pandemic. We have been discussing key trends, technologies, and solutions across the agri-food industry with top CEOs, innovators, entrepreneurs, and investors. On our next slide, you can see our Thrive events, and we will be doing our annual Future of Food Summit with Forbes on June 30th. So stay tuned for that. And as I'd mentioned earlier, our European Challenge, we'll hold that on October 7th. Next slide, we are launching, I'm jumping ahead here. We're looking at who's here today. I think for the first time, we've got 50-50 from the US and international. I think we've got over 500 registrations for our event today, and people from 40 countries and over 30 states. And you can see quite a mix of folks from the corporate agribusiness to other accelerators and various different startups, both scale up and startup companies. So delighted that everybody's able to join us today. On our next slide, we're going to launch a poll. Our questions, you should be able to see it now, and please start filling it out. Our question is really looking at what is the most impactful trend affecting the food industry, and would love to hear your views on this. On our next slide, we'll also do a Q&A at the end of our panel discussion. Really want to kind of hear from you, your questions. So please submit your questions now, and if you like somebody else's question, please upvote them so that we can get to the best questions earlier on. So next slide. So delighted to be joined by an incredible Future of Food panel, and we will kick off with John Jordan. John is Chief Executive of Ornua, the owner of the Kerry Gold brand, the #2 butter in the US market, and Ireland's largest dairy exporter. With a 25-year career in agribusiness, John delivers Ornua's global strategy of product and geographic diversification. Welcome, John, and I'll hand it over to John to tell us more about Ornua.
Thanks, John. I'm delighted to join the panel today. So maybe a couple of quick slides just to put in context Ornua. Jess, if you'd just flick on there for me, please, to the next one. As John said, we're a cooperative, Ireland's largest dairy exporter. Some of those figures are on the next slide, Jess. Sales or revenues for the Americans of about 2.3 billion euro, $2.8 billion. And out of Ireland, we export to about 110 countries around the world. I suppose that's really important in terms of the breadth and understanding of markets globally. Dairy is a global business. We are, as you said, John, the proud owner of Kerrygold. A lot of people may not have heard of Ornua, the business, but I would sincerely hope that many of the people on the call today are consumers of the Kerrygold brand. And a team of 2,400 people. And on the next slide, I'll show our geographic footprint. We're a modest-sized business in the dairy world, but have a decent geographic footprint. And we feel it's really important in our key markets to have a presence on the ground. So in our key markets, the US, Ireland, UK, Spain, Germany, down to Saudi Arabia, Nigeria, and across to China, we have factories, facilities, and offices which we use as an anchor for running our business. On the next slide, you'll see that our workforce is as diverse as our consumer base. And I suppose that's an important part in reflecting who we are. Of our 2,400 people that work for us, given our international breadth of presence, it represents 59 different countries and every age profile. What's hugely important in a business like Ornua, and I think it comes from a cooperative ethos, is the idea of diversity and belonging. And we measure and track a lot of those metrics within the business and across our workforce. On the next slide, maybe just to talk a little bit about the headlines around Kerrygold. And as I said, I hope that many of you have it home in your fridge. We're Ireland's first ever billion-euro food brand, which is an incredible statement for a small little island off the west coast of Ireland to have a billion-euro food brand. It's the things that big FMCG companies talk about. We're the number 2 butter in the United States. We're also the number 1 specialty cheddar. And across the 110 countries around the world where we sell, every week, 10 million packets of Kerrygold cheese and butter are sold. It's a huge success story. And really, it's on the next slide where we talk about the Kerrygold promise, which is really what it's about. It's about premium quality product that stems from grass-fed cows and has superior taste. And Ireland is unique in it's one of the few remaining countries in the world where cows predominantly eat grass as their diet. Many countries now have a grain or corn-based diet, and grass gives beta carotene, which gives it a lovely rich yellow color. It makes the product softer. It's got a different fat profile, and it gives it a taste. So it's a physical difference in the product. And it's great for us because it's not a story we have to make up. As Ornua, our product comes from 14,000 Irish family farms that are handed down from generation to generation. And even on our social media platforms, we've given up telling the story. We now just get the farmers to tell the story. And maybe a brief video, Jess, if you wouldn't mind playing, just to give you a flavor of some of that.
I'm the 3rd generation in the farm here. My father got ill about 93, and he asked me, would you be interested? And I said I would. So I took over the farm here in 1994, and we've built it from there since.
As far as I know, I'm 4th, 5th generation. It goes back over 250 years. Dad was born way out here. He's just a power of knowledge. Every day I'm learning something new.
A lot of people say my father's father, he was a very, very good man to look after animals. That grows on you, and you don't pick it up off the road like you pick it up from the people before you. It's breeding, you know, it's breeding.
There's things that you just can't learn. You must be in the yard or in the parlour or around the farm with him. Well, he wanted business, but he just learned something from me as well, I suppose. The new kid on the block. He wants to do things his way, I want to do things my way. We might go separate ways for 15 minutes and we'd come back and we'd agree on something.
Dad died in the 2016. He died a happy man, he died a proud man. His photograph is faced out where the cows are looking in it, because that's where he really loved to be. All his thinking was done in the parlour, all his decisions were done in the parlour. For us, he's still a part of this farm. He put the foundation in this farm, and maybe in some day that my photograph will be alongside him. Yeah.
Excellent. That's very impactful, John. I mean, incredible story. Obviously, Kerrygold is a well-known brand in Ireland, but obviously here in the US, I know here in Silicon Valley, everybody is a big customer and consumer. And looking at the video there, I felt I was at home here. I'm getting homesick here. So thanks, John. Nora, delighted to have you here. Nora is a mathematician and with a PhD in molecular evolution and bioinformatics. Nora founded Nuritas with a mission to improve the lives of billions of people globally using revolutionary AI methods to discover life-changing peptides with huge potential to improve global health in a sustainable and healthy way. I was delighted to meet with Nora, I think 7 years ago when she first won our very first Thrive Accelerator. So great to see you again, Nora.
Thanks, John, and thanks for inviting me. It's delighted again to be here. I don't have a cool video like John does, but I'll do my best. Thanks again. Again, just to explain a little bit what we do is that we use machine learning, artificial intelligence, bioinformatics, and new technologies to explore nature and really identify these incredible health benefiting molecules that we haven't really explored before and deliver sustainable products of the future. If you go to the next one, the real question for Nuritas has always been, how do we deliver plants to their full functional potential? I don't think plants are used well, and we're not really using them well, and I'll explain why. If you go to the next one, if you look around us, plants have incredible components within them that can improve and transform human health. You're talking about trillions of different molecules, and it's very hard to know, okay, which one actually does what and how they can improve human health. But many of those components we cannot access. When we eat the food, the whole food itself, we actually cannot access those health promoting molecules because we break it down in our digestive system. And also food processing actually kills those molecules as well. So whether we eat a food processed product or whether we eat the whole foods itself, we can't access those health promoting molecules, a lot of those. And what Nuritas does is it really is about identifying those hidden benefits within every source material, every plant, for example, and bringing it and making it available to consumer. So really it's from whole food to whole food. We're not transforming food. We're just making those components that improve human health more accessible by humans. If you go to the next one. So really what we're talking about here is about allowing for plant 2.0 and beyond. So not just plant-based, we're talking healthy, functional, with clear benefits and scientific backing behind it. We're talking about delivering plant-based products to their full functional potential. Like I said earlier, we eat food, but a lot of the benefits actually get destroyed in our digestive system and we don't make the most of it. And really, it's not about extracts from food. It really is about whole foods. How can we optimize the nutrition of food? How can we use it in a better way? And I think most people don't realize that, but we're not using food to the full potential. We go to the next one. So there was no other way but to create a technology to explore nature better. Being able to go after a consumer trend and consumer need, and then use that consumer need, transform it into a biological question, and then use a technology which we invented called Empify, which stands for Nuritas Peptide Finder, that can explore nature and literally decipher all these molecular structures in every food we eat to identify the ones that are very healthy, that can promote our health, that we're not currently getting, even when we eat the food itself. And then by using that, we can create these incredible ingredients, some of which I've mentioned there, like the Nuritas Inside ingredient, Pepti Strong, Pepti Youth, etc. And I can explain that a little further later. If you go to the next one. So using the technology, we're capable now of, accelerating the discovery. So if you look at current ingredients on the market, There are no differentiation there. Everyone's using the same thing. A lot of the ingredients that are out there have taken 100 years actually to develop, most of them 30 years plus, which is crazy. So through technology now, we're capable of creating some incredible ingredients without transforming food. It's literally making those natural health promoting molecules more available for people to explore in different areas like muscle health, gut health, immunity, and so forth. And I think that's really important. And we've developed quite a few in parallel and launching. We've launched our first one last year, for example. If we go to the next one. And then if we focus on the top three, for example, PeptiStrong is in the area of muscle regeneration. And as we age, we lose muscle and muscle function. And muscle is really the heart of metabolism in the human body. It's where we, where we produce a lot of our energy as well to move and to be mobile. Our strength comes from it, etc. And this one was discovered in fava bean. When you eat the fava bean, you don't get that benefit. What we've done is simply identify that the benefit was in fava bean. And the question is, how do we make it available for humans? How do we unlock that health benefit so that consumers can get it? It is the first plant-based muscle health ingredient in the world. You know that in this area, you have whey, which is animal-based. You also have leucine, for example, which are branched-chain amino acids. This product actually, and plant-based isn't usually as good as animal products. Plant-based protein isn't as good as whey, for example. But this one is better than whey, and it's better than amino acids, and it's plant-based, and it's because we literally unleashed those capabilities from that plant. And the same with PeptiForce. They're all clinically proven. They've all gone through clinicals and scale up. PeptiForce is from pea. It improves metabolism, glucose metabolism. PeptiYouth is in the aging arena, so cellular aging and reducing cellular aging. And they're all unique. They're all patented because we know exactly the structure of the molecule, so we can personalize them. And this is because of technology again. We know exactly how, where those molecules are, how can we access them in those source materials so we can patent them. They're all non-GMO, they're all food grade, and have lots of science behind them as well. So it's the first time really that technology has explored, and we're only at the tippy top of the iceberg. There's so many other molecules out there that we simply have not explored yet. If you go to the next one. And then in a nutshell, again, like you're looking, we are, like I said, exploring nature, and we plan that over the next 3 years, we would have covered all the plant kingdom on Earth. That means we would have explored all the benefits in every plant that we know of. We're doing about 100,000 predictions per hour. That means we will scan all plants, know exactly what plants have, what are the potentials are hidden that we have not used as humans yet, and how can we explore and get that potential from it. Obviously we're faster and cheaper, etc., than the usual discovery of active molecules, which usually takes, like I said, 30 years plus. And we've done a comparison between what we've done and traditionally, and it would have taken 28,000 years traditionally to find what we have found in about a 2.5-year cycle. And that's incredible. We've been working with very large companies addressing very, very big unmet need, and again, unleashing that powers from food to address those consumers. If you go to the next one. I just want to finish off by saying, we want to be as a company, and I think like John started, we want to improve the lives of billions of people. And to do that, we are creating the Nuritas inside in our foods, in our beverages, supplements, skincare products, pet food, and medication. And we want to be in every home by 2030. So thank you.
That's fantastic, Nora, and congratulations on all the incredible progress you've made in the company. And I mean, you're truly affecting people's lives with what you're doing, and I can't believe that you're going to be shortening the time to get all this stuff to market in such I think you said 2,500 years. That's incredible.
28,000.
28,000. Sorry.
Crazy, I know.
Excellent. Well, thanks, Nora. Delighted to also be joined here by Carrie Shea. Carrie has more than 25 years of management consulting experience in consumer products, retail, manufacturing, and private equity industries. She leads IRI's consulting team and has expertise in building demand-based growth strategies and directly advising boards and C-level executives on strategic initiatives. I think this is going to be a really interesting view of what's happening in the consumer and world today on food. I'll hand it over to Carrie.
Thank you, John. Thanks, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me okay. We've had a little bit of slowdown on my internet, so I'm going to turn my video off and then go through the presentation. So a few words about IRI. IRI is a global company that it produces augmented decision-making, big data, predictive analytics, insights, media, and growth strategy to consumer products and retail clients. If you can advance to the next page. Our growth consulting team is a boutique consultancy within IRI. We're made up of folks from the major consultancies like BCG, McKinsey, Booz Allen, A.T. Kearney, et cetera. And we're experts in data science and consulting. And we're also experts at integrating very large data sets. We use AI, we use natural language processing, we use a number of tools to help us pull out through the myriad of data sources we have, like our panel data, our POS data, our frequent shopper card data, our social intelligence analytics data, the key nuggets of insights to help us understand where the future is going to lead us. So if you can go to the next page. And we work with clients across the spectrum, as John mentioned. We work with a lot of very large consumer products companies. We work with private equity firms, and we also work with a lot of smaller regional and even new brands that are entering the market. And most of our work is customized ad hoc work. We do some what we call centers of excellence, which are retained arrangements where we actually have people sitting on the ground with our clients on a day-by-day basis. You can go to the next page, please. So what I'm going to talk about for about 5 or 6 minutes is how might we imagine daily life being redefined because of COVID, and what does what's going to be sticky about the things that happened during COVID. If you can imagine, it takes about 65 days, 66 days to build a new habit. And we've been in COVID now for over a year in most countries. So imagine the habits that have been formed. And when we open up as economies again, it's very likely some of these habits are going to stick and stay with us post-COVID. You can go to the next page, please. So I'm going to talk about 5 trends that we believe are really here to stay and are going to be a very important part of the next 4 or 5 years on a global basis. So the first is immune boosting foods and consumers' awareness, keen awareness now about the importance of immunity and how food can play a role in boosting immunity. The second is embracing plant-based foods. And there was early adoption of plant-based alternatives prior to COVID, but we definitely saw that those trends continued during COVID, whether we're talking about meat or dairy alternatives. It's still a small portion in the US market of the dairy and meat space, but it's definitely growing very quickly and consumers are becoming much more educated about it. The third is transparency and consumers really wanting to have full transparency about their food products and sources. And then sustainability and the importance of sustainability and increasing importance of sustainability in value propositions. And then mood enhancement, which I think is really kind of a very interesting, intriguing idea, which maybe Nora's firm will find lots of ways we can improve moods and do better mood control with things that we can unlock within the plant life that's on our earth. So I'll go through each of these very briefly here, if you can go to the next page. So immune boosting, this is a very important trend, and that's why I put it first here. We've seen a significant increase in the focus on health during the pandemic or because of the pandemic. 27% of consumers tell us they're very much focused on health now. And they're showing that in the types of products they're buying. So we see with nootropics going up quite significantly. Products, for example, containing elderberry went up 125% during COVID. So whether you already have a disease state and you're looking for products to help manage that disease state, like diabetes, obesity, hypertension, or if you're just looking to add foods to your diet that will boost your immunity, we're seeing consumers increasing purchasing across all of these categories pretty significantly. And consumers really do now, 37% of consumers tell us they look at food as medicine, and maybe sometimes better than actual medicine. So you can go to the next page. Seeking alternatives, as I mentioned, we're definitely seeing an increase in plant-based meat and dairy alternatives. You can see on the chart on the right, dairy actually grew faster during the last few years than meat. We saw a very large increase in meat alternative consumption during COVID. Now, part of that is an interesting phenomenon that I just want to point out, which is consumers purchased a lot of freezers during COVID in the US market. Consumers ran out of freezer space, even though they had purchased large standalone freezers and put them in their garages and put them outside their homes to be able to increase their capacity for frozen foods. This is a sticky thing that we believe will stay going into the future, because consumers have conditioned themselves to buy in larger pack size and to freeze food and to eat frozen meals and frozen meats, etc. So we do believe going forward, consumers will continue to purchase frozen foods, and that is something that will be a sticky post-COVID behavior, because in part they have the capacity to do that now that they have these large standalone freezers, which, by the way, sold out in the US last year, and that's how much they were in demand. So you go to the next page. So transparency is also a very important US trend, not just on ingredient transparency and trying to understand, does it have a clean label? What are the added nutrients? Was it frozen or not frozen? But also sourcing transparency, really better understanding where was it grown. Local provenance is a very important value to a number of younger consumers now. And also purpose-based transparency. So what is the story behind the company? What is their value system? Are they a B Corp? Are they employee owned? How do they treat their employees? Are they diverse? So today consumers are digging much deeper into understanding the brands and products they're buying and the companies behind those brands and products. Next page, please. So sustainability, people have been asking for quite a few years now, when are we going to see consumers start paying for sustainability claims? And we think we're really at a tipping point where consumers are definitely much more educated and much more interested. What you're looking at here is data on social intelligence analytics mentions of sustainability. And you can see in just the last year and a half, a significant increase in conversations. These are consumer to consumer conversations. We've taken out any media or manufacturer created content. So just looking at the raw consumer to consumer conversations on social media, we are seeing a significant increase in the topic of sustainability, particularly in pork and chicken, but also we saw that uptick in beef. And the mentions are primarily pretty positive. So we're continuing to do a lot of work in this area with our clients. A lot of clients, really want to see this migrate into the value equation and be able to get premium pricing for these sustainability claims. And in some categories, we're starting to see the ability to do that. And I think as consumers continue to get more educated, we'll see more of that. And if you can go to the next page, please. So we see this in particular with the Gen Z and the millennials, who, by the way, represent 140 million people in the US. So it's a large consumer purchasing segment. And these younger consumers are saying they were going to select their retailers based on their sustainability practices or the products that they sell and the sustainability practices of those manufacturers who make those products. And they're definitely buying more products that have these sustainability claims. Next page, please. So mood enhancement is an area that I think is just really fascinating. During the pandemic, consumers became pretty stressed out in the US market, but there's also a lot of anxiety building as people begin to imagine going back to work and back to school and back into this new normal. So what we're seeing is consumers rethinking the way they've used mood altering products in the past. In particular, we're seeing this in the area of alcohol and increased interest in non-alcohol beverage replacements, but also consumers increasingly looking at other types of alternatives to alcohol, whether that be CBD or cannabis, or just other types of foods that can affect mood. So if you go to the next page, and this is my last page, just sharing a little bit more about this in the area of euphorics and nootropics. And what we're seeing is a lot of new products coming on the market, which do offer these other types of benefits, whether it's euphorics around replenishing and rebalancing the endocrine system, or whether it's about nootropics, which is much more around cognitive performance and being able to perform better. So we think this is going to be a big area of advancement and could be pretty revolutionary for the beverage industry in particular. So hopefully you found that interesting and helpful in terms of just giving you a little glimpse into some of the trends we're seeing here in the US market.
That's fascinating stuff, Carrie. Thank you so much for sharing. I mean, clearly, I think COVID has accelerated, quite a number of trends, and I think people's really engaging in terms of health, sustainability, and it's going to be interesting when we all go back to the real world, or the whatever the new normal is going to be. John, obviously Ornua, you've been around. Well, Ornua has been around for 50 plus years, and you've navigated various different disruptions in the dairy industry and consumer tastes. When you look at some of this data, whether it's related to some of the trends around kind of health, sustainability, alternatives, what do you see in terms of what does this mean for say the butter or the dairy industry with the next generation consumer, and and are you seeing kind of some disruption in terms of some of these alternative dairy products?
Yeah, really interesting, John. And I mean, it ties so well together with a lot of what Carrie has. And indeed, I'm glad you highlighted that Ornua's business for 50 years, not me. Otherwise, I'd be marketing Nora's youth-looking products to say I was in business for 50 years. Yeah. It's really interesting. So ultimately, it's about consumers. So what is it driving consumers? And the biggest trend, and hitting on all of Carrie's, but transparency is hugely important. If you go back to the 60s and 70s and take the US, we were all told margarine was the way to go. In about 5-6 years ago, butter made the cover of Time magazine, because guess what? Butter is back and it's good for you. Butter has 2 ingredients. It's got cream and a pinch of salt. And people understand that. People understand, particularly people that are looking for premium products, want to be able to connect to a brand, connect to, understand the detail of it, where it comes from, all the pieces that Carrie talked about. And when you think about something like butter, it tends to be small family farms. It tends to be locally produced. It tends to be very, very high quality. It fits with health and wellness, indulgence, premiumization, immune boosting. Dairy has got an immune boosting benefit out of COVID because dairy is a rich source of vitamin D. Sustainability, and certainly from an Ornua and an Ireland perspective, sustainability is a hugely important part for people that buy into the Kerrygold brand. Simple things like water. The vast majority, 95% of the water used in Irish farming falls from the sky. It's rain. It's a natural place to grow grass that cows eat that produce butter, as opposed to maybe some of the alternatives, and don't want to offend anyone, but if you took an alternative like an almond milk, or maybe almond juice it should be called, produced in Southern California, where 80% of the world's almonds are produced, where there's a water deficit, and the amount of water it takes to produce that. So it's about buying products that are naturally sourced, naturally produced, and belong where they belong. And certainly dairy belongs in Ireland, John.
Excellent. Thanks, John. Butter's back. It never left our house, I can tell you. And, that's great. Nora, obviously, the whole world of ingredients, and with these consumer trends in terms of like health and sustainability, I mean, what are you seeing as kind of, key trends going forward, either biotech or in the ingredients industry? And what kind of expectations are there from consumers? I know, we're all measuring ourselves now, and, personalization is becoming a really important area. What does it mean for tech and maybe your B2B customers, big companies that you're working with today?
Yeah, absolutely, John. I think maybe before we get into the future, maybe a little bit about the current. So what is the situation now in terms of ingredients? Because that really are the components that are any food product. So the interesting part is that when you look around, everyone's using the same exact ingredients, okay? There's no real differentiation here. There's no uniqueness. These have been discovered decades and decades ago. But the problem as well is that when they were discovered decades ago, they weren't discovered for a specific consumer need. They were discovered, and then it took decades to understand whether they actually address a consumer need. So it was kind of the opposite. It was like, okay, we have a solution, but we don't know what problem it's actually solving for consumer. So it's kind of backtracking and trying to push down an ingredient into a consumer need, let's say. But also I think the lack of understanding of a lot of these ingredients. So when we say ingredient, usually it's like an extract or something from a plant source or an animal source. And these are very hard to personalize because we don't really know how they work. No one knows, what is the active within that mixture, because it's not one molecule you're talking about. It's a mixture of natural molecules from a plant or from an animal. They can't be personalized. It's very hard to know what claims you can go to because you don't know how it works. So you don't know what the potential can be. So you can't say, well, I know this is going to be a very good anti-inflammatory, so I'm going to go after anti-inflammation. I know it's going to be good for, metabolism. And so it really is ad hoc. They just test them, random testing, and hopefully it hits something that consumers actually want. And it's very hard to reproduce. And that's the issue on natural products. It's very hard to reproduce the same exact consistency because when you don't know how something works, you don't know what the components are, it's very hard to measure, okay, well, this batch looks exactly like the next one and so forth. So it varies dramatically as well. So you have that. That's the current situation in terms of a lot of the ingredients that are out there. And then the other part as well is that it has taken decades to find these already, and there are no companies out there that have the know-how or the unlimited funds to embark on new discoveries, because again, it takes like the youngest is about a 38-year-old. That's oligosaccharides. You're talking omega-3 is 100 years old, etc. So it's very hard to go from a research project and take it forward. And it's only really through the incorporation of new technologies like AI, like mass spectrometry, and bringing those together, like systems biology, and integrating all those different areas, that you can explore the space of food better, and you can find these incredible molecules that improve human health. Now, it's not always just about improving human health. It's about being able to enjoy health and enjoy life in a better way, having better immunity, better metabolism, enjoying life in such a way that you can do today what you did when you were a kid, and that's really trying to find those ingredients that can do that. And I think as technology moves, there's a lot of technologies out there in terms of already wearables and measuring tools that can measure your metabolism very well, that can measure your inflammation very well. And I think those are going to be on trend, and they're going to grow significantly, and the adoption of those is going to grow. I think very soon you'll have a lot of people just, wearing patches to measure their blood glucose over time, over the day, and so forth. And I think that full integration of really health promoting ingredients in everyday foods with those measuring tools is going to be the future. And I think also what's super interesting, and I think Carrie had touched on it as well, is that when you look at mainstream companies moving towards the whole area of health, it's very interesting because, believe me, 4 years ago it wasn't the case. It was like theoretical, it would be good, etc. But you're seeing large companies launch products that are boosting your sleep or helping you sleep better, and that are big, large, food companies that are mainstream. It's not medical foods, it's your general food company. Same with immune boosting products, etc. has grown significantly. So on one spectrum, we're talking here about, enjoying life better. It's not about curing disease. It's not about preventing. It really is about enjoying life better. We're working in that area, but we're also working on the prevention area. Okay, and prevention, I think, is a big discussion where if you look at the healthcare industry, and again, you have prevention, and it's separate from what I was talking initially about. You have 97% of healthcare expenditure currently is on cure and treatment, and only 3% on prevention. 3% is spent on prevention. And that doesn't make sense. It's not sustainable in any way, and it needs to change. And when I look at myself, I know probably a lot of people on the call here have done their DNA test. I've done it, and I've done it only recently, actually. And it's interesting to see the trends, the family trends you have. And you're like, okay, how do I prevent? How do I know my family has certain traits, but how do I prevent those? And currently there's nothing. It's like, okay, well, eat less fat, eat less sugar, more vegetables. But that's not a clear science-based solution that's tailored to yourself. And I think we need to go there. And now that we have technologies that can explore food better and add the science behind to back the exact understanding of that, I think that 3% is going to just grow, because now regulators will understand that these products actually have science behind, they're tailored, and they work as well. Mm-hmm. And I think personally, and people I'm working with at Nuritas, we all believe that the future is about enjoying life for longer, for better immune system, like I said, better metabolism, stronger, fitter, but also about prevention, about preventing disease, products that can actually be personalized and measured, because those two are coming together. There's a lot of already, measuring tools like DNA, DNA testing or measuring of blood glucose, etc. But the bringing together of those two, I think, is the next big thing.
Yeah, excellent. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, I think my mother used to tell me. So it's still in vogue. And also, I mean, obviously, look, I think we're all paying a lot more attention to science. And I think with COVID, it's even more so. And obviously health and prevention are key areas. I mean, John, when you look at the data from Carrie and what they've analyzed, and you look at, we're all here at home, and, our lives have changed dramatically, with COVID. What are some of the things that you've seen in terms of how that has impacted your business, your customers, and are you seeing kind of some sticking power here with some of these trends, particularly as we start to see some light at the end of the tunnel here?
Yeah, really interesting, John, because I mean, we've gone from a situation where if you take the US and take the calories we consumed, it was 50% at home, 50% out of home. And in the past 12 months, it's pretty much gone to, almost 100% at home. And you've seen people go back to comfort eating. Baking has gone through the roof. Instagram is alight with how many sourdough bread competitions or bakery cook-offs can you have. So there's been a massive reversion to a lot of basic food. And what consumers are looking for is trust. So brands I can trust and products I can trust. Mm-hmm. So again, we've seen in Kerrygold an enormous growth in demand. And again, I suppose, and coupling that with, if you look at Carrie's information there about plant growth, and it's coming up in the Q&A a little bit, we're all for balanced diet. It needs everything. So it's not one at the expense of the other. Dairy and Kerrygold are winning at the moment. We're seeing growth because of the consumer patterns of consumption. Mm-hmm. But that settles well with everything else that's out there. It's not about replacing one with the other. So we think, and again, like Carrie said, we think there's a lot of these consumer trends that will stick post-COVID. We'll be more thoughtful about how we eat, and driven by transparency, though.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, John. I know we're kind of getting tight for time, but maybe a quick question, just in terms of, ag tech. There's been, a massive surge in terms of investment, and not just ag tech, food tech. Next generation proteins. There's like massive valuations. I think it was $26 billion invested in venture capital in ag tech and food tech last year, and that was the biggest ever. I mean, do you feel that this is a bubble? Do you think it could burst? Are there, impactful technologies that you think are going to be out there, as we go forward? Maybe I'll ask Nora and John. Maybe Nora, if you want to just give your perspective in terms of what you're seeing and experiencing as one of the successful entrepreneurs here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's even from when we first started to now, there are a lot more investment firms in this area, and it's grown significantly. So, which is good. And I think, John, like it is the one thing we do every day is eat and consume. And so it just makes sense that that's where it's going, and that there's a massive interest in how are we going to eat, how are we going to feed the next population, the billions of people that are, the future. And then I think there are technologies that will make it and will come out of it. Like I think sustainable packaging, I think active ingredients, exactly what we're doing. I think it's the next big thing as well. It's very hard though to replace nature. And I hit a little bit about what John is saying. It's very hard to replace a natural product with something that's made in a different way, and there's a lot of issues you have to come through, and maybe those issues are gonna are gonna be all solved, but you want to know whether the product works the same way, and not just from a nutritional benefit perspective, but even when it enters your body, actually does it work the same way, and can it be formulated the same way? It's very, very hard to copy nature because nature doesn't come alone. Like you look at milk, for example, milk is not one protein or two, it's many. And it's that many, it's that matrix that allows it to be active. And this is why we try to keep food, whole foods to whole foods. We didn't try and go and change it. It's like, it's already there. It's just that we're not accessing it. How do we access it better? So I think it's harder to say, but in general, I think the trend is going to continue to grow. It's a very important area.
Great. Thanks, Nora. John, I mean, what's your view here on this? And then also, we got a lot of entrepreneurs around the world tuned in. I mean, what does Ornua want? If you want to reach out and say something to some of the entrepreneurs out there.
Well, I must say, I'm always in awe of people who have the courage to do something innovative like Nora has, and many of your other participants, John and Thrive, that if you go back through the series, I think the world needs them. There's plenty of money to invest in and support the good ones. From an Ornua perspective and conscious time, John, anything that's relating to sustainability and environmental, that's from farm out, that's really important. To all your starting points, John, we have to feed 10 billion people by 2050. But do that in a way that protects the environment for all of us and protects the planet long term. The other area outside of the farming and sustainability environmental is obviously packaging, in terms of how packaging will evolve for all food products, because that's a huge part to play in terms of the supply chain, integrity of supply chain. Consumer engagement technology is a huge area. And also from an Ornua perspective, we have a very large ingredients business where we supply food manufacturers, and incorporating a variety of ingredients, whether they're bio or non-bio or performance enhancement ingredients, would also be of interest to us. So a broad range, John, in a very short answer.
Brilliant. Thanks, John. And want to go to the poll question and also go to questions really quickly. Carrie, any advice for big corporations out there in terms of what they need to be doing when they listen to all these trends?
Yeah, well, a couple quick ones. One is, last year everyone was focused on managing capacity and making sure they don't have out of stocks. Going forward, the focus really needs to be on innovation and making sure that you're putting enough dollars behind the innovation. Also, with the explosion of e-commerce, we're now where we were expecting consumer e-commerce spending to be in 2025, happened because COVID. COVID was a great accelerator. So making sure you have your e-commerce strategy down and that you're focused and you're putting enough money to build out the e-commerce capability. And then the third thing, I saw a question in the chat room around sustainability. It is important to embrace sustainability and not only look at it in terms of a return on your investment in that. It's good for the world. It's good for all of us. So I think all corporations, need to continue to make that part of their value system and work to figure out their angle on it for their brands.
Excellent. Thanks, Carrie. And maybe we'll take a look at our poll there. Jess, I don't know if you can put that in front, and we'll take a reaction on there. So our question was, which of the following trends do you believe will create the biggest shift in the food industry in 2021? Sustainability is coming out, quite well ahead in terms of being the biggest impact, and then followed by plant-based foods. Any surprises with that, folks? John?
No, I think again that sustainability, I'd couple it with the transparency. Consumers have never been more connected. We're engaged one-on-one with 1,000 consumers a week outside our social media, just with people asking genuine questions about where their food comes from and trying to understand it better.
Excellent. Nora, any quick points on that? Any surprises, or is it, you know, expected?
It makes sense. Sustainability, I think, is on the mind of a lot of individuals, and plant-based as well. Yeah, makes total
That's good.
sense.
And I think, as you said, Carrie, I mean, it's now a reality, sustainability, with a lot of big corporations. It's no, I don't mean this in a bad way, it's not hand waving, it's real. People are doing something about it today. Just looking at our Q&A, I see Danny O'Brien, I see Kerrygold is kind of hitting the top here, being upvoted. Would love to hear how alternative dairy movements are affecting demand for Kerrygold. Do you see any opportunities to leverage the Kerrygold brand in this space? Well,
so the short answer is, John, so Kerrygold is seeing enormous growth, year-on-year growth, really strong in all our key markets, and it's because of the consumption patterns, and it's great. Kerrygold is a dairy brand, so Kerrygold won't be moving into plant-based directly, but Ornua as a business has a business in that space. So it's not a Kerrygold is an Irish farmer-based brand, so Irish milk.
Okay, happy cows. Okay, so Brittany has, we've obviously lots of students dialed in here. How can a student entering the workforce help enact change within the food and agriculture industry? Nora, any suggestions for?
I think it's always good to try and, that's the way I would do it. That's if you finished your education. If you're going into education, I would always try and do some computer science on the side. But after your education, I would join a startup that's working in the area, and I think that's the best way to have a meaningful impact on a lot of this.
Okay. What would you say, John? Join a big company like Ornua?
I mean, I just met, we hired graduates every year. Obviously, we just met them this week, the recent crop. I'm astounded with the quality of education of young people these days, the energy, enthusiasm. So I'd reverse it. I'd say for businesses, hire more grads.
Okay, great advice, John. Gerald Eva, is there a difference between US retail stats and UK consumer demands? UK seems to be much more focused on lower price than US consumers. For example, organic consumer stats does really relate back to the likes of like sales. It seems that consumers say they want organic, but still shop for cost. That sounds like a question for Carrie there for sure.
Yeah, we definitely do see a big difference in the US and UK consumer. The US consumer, though, because of COVID, has become a little bit more polarized. We actually do have a growing value segment here in the US, and I think it's very important for corporations to make sure they have a strategy to address both that premium consumer and super premium consumer who's willing to pay for all the extra benefit claims, the enhanced packaging, and then also a solution for the consumer who is now, especially because of COVID, more strapped and looking for those value-based brands. But yeah, we definitely do see a fairly big difference between the US and UK consumer when it comes to interest in value-based products.
Thanks, Carrie. I've a question here from Catherine Lascuras. How does Irish dairy, 90% export oriented, persuade consumers in the US, UK, and beyond that locally produced isn't the be all end all?
Yeah, I think, look, it's not about one over the other. You know, again, go back and I'd say, you know, there's two countries in the world where cows eat grass, and it actually comes out in the product, John. So the biggest thing we've done, and part of our success in the US over the last 25 years, has actually been doing tastings, actually let consumers taste the product, and they'll appreciate and understand that there is a real point of difference. So that's been one of the keys to success for us, having actually consumers taste product.
Thanks, Sean. I'll take one last question because I know we're up against the clock here. Kieran Fagan, he's got a pretty lengthy question. I'll try to skip through it. It's for Nora. I'm fascinated by the solutions that boldly assert that they can outperform nature, particularly in the time when our life expectancy is at an all-time high. It's hard to understand how nature has locked key life-enhancing ingredients away to be made available only through the complicated identification process. That's half the question. I'll give you the other half. If we assume that our immune systems and sophisticated and are highly effective, designed by nature to be optimally fueled in the right way through the many simple, nutritious, quality foods that are available to us, such as Ornua's butter, and are your solutions designed to only address the problems created by people who do not fuel themselves in the right way, for example, with inflammation, oxidative stress, etc.? That's the longest question I've ever.
It is, yeah. I can very shortly say, okay, so it's not about health span. It's about, or it's not about lifespan. It's about health span. So it's about augmenting your health span, being healthier for longer. Because yes, what's interesting, if you look at the stats, and we've published quite a few papers on that. What's interesting is that people are living longer, but they're living longer sicker. So their health span has not really changed. Their lifespan has augmented, but their health span is very similar to before. And the goal here is how do we extend that health span for longer? And that's really the focus. How can we avoid drugs for as long as we can? And then the second half is absolutely. So what we're saying, we're not, we're simply saying that when you eat your foods, you're actually not getting the benefits, all the benefits that are in those foods currently today, because a lot of it is just thrown away, it's digested. Like, for example, vitamin D, we don't take up as much vitamin D as we should. We can take all we want, but we can drink a lot of milk. We may get it, but very often the body just gets rid of it, even when we need it. And the same with iron and others. So the question is, how do we make most of those source materials when we eat them? So we're not just throwing them away. And also personally, for example, I exercise, and exercise comes with inflammation. So I take, for example, Pepti Strong as an example. This is me. And the reason is because it allows me to exercise for longer, to recover faster. I have sometimes my knees hurt, and when I take Pepti Strong, it removes that because it's an anti-inflammatory as well. So that's kind of, it's not about, disease and sickness. It's about, augmenting your performance and longevity. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Thanks, Nora.
Thank you, John.
We're coming towards the end here. Carrie, Nora, John, thank you very much. Really appreciate it, your comments, your insights. And this is such a long discussion that could go on for a lot longer. I mean, everybody is very much focused on food and health and sustainability, and really great to kind of see those insights. So thank you very much for a really great conversation.
Thanks a million.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
And just to wrap up here, we had a great conversation today, and next month we're going to launch our sustainability challenge, the Thrive Bear Sustainability Challenge. Delighted to partner with Bear on this. It's obviously coming at a very important time and obviously very relevant from our conversation. So if you'd like to join on that, please check out our website to register. And next slide is basically the end. I would like to thank everybody. I'd like to thank our team in terms of the participation and the work today, and look forward to catching up with everybody soon. So take care, everybody. Be safe, be healthy, and look forward to talking to you soon. Take care.